I make art really because I want to engage with ideas that exist in culture, but I like the capacity of art to engage with the political without being didactic, or to engage with what people are doing without having to make certain kinds of structures or stories, and the freedom that it has from commercial constraint. So I really love the capacity of art as a mode of cultural production that really is and kind of potentially experimental, but just that it can have freedom potentially of form and ask questions of a space without knowing what the answers might be or what might happen as a result of the answers. And there are not a lot of modes of cultural production that offer that same kind of exploration kind of a feel, and it's speculative. And partly I operate across a few different cultures, so there's an interest that I have in history and how it impacts people in a contemporary context, and I also have the interest in very contemporary culture and speed culture, but in particular how people engage with landscapes if they're involved in those kind of speed and adrenaline cultures. So there's a sort of a range of actual sort of topics and communities that I work with, but the underlying thing is an interest in being in those places and spaces, working with people and seeing what might happen and not knowing what that might be, and art completely offers usually that freedom. And if the art system kind of comes in and tries to predetermine it, I try and resist that as well. Even when sometimes it does, it has that moment of sometimes wanting to do that. But I think, yeah, to keep it open and playful and part of a conversation with the politics and dynamics in a culture. There's a brand new project in the show. It's only just been completed, which is made during exercise Blackbird with 3 Squadron. RNZAF 3 Squadron, based out of Ohakea, but the artwork is made in the Dip Flat RNZAF area in the South Island, not that far from the Nelson Lakes area actually, but it's right up in the mountains. And that work, I work really closely with Oliver Bint, who is the squadron leader of 3 Squadron. He and I work together to run tests and trials on what might be possible for looking at making a work, primarily a kind of a performance, engaging the helicopters, but eventually, but also knowing that it was going to have to be a video type project, just given the remoteness of that. Really adverse weather conditions, and we didn't know if there was going to be anything on time for the show at all because of that situation of not knowing how the weather would be, and so there were a lot of uncertainties with that project. But the context of it is the exercise Blackbird is an alpine training kind of section or exercise that the 3 Squadron does, and it helps the pilots keep their knowledge and experience up in terms of alpine flying, and that supports all of their search and rescue work that they do in New Zealand, but it also takes the pilots to a very high technical level of sort of experience of really difficult terrain. And that was really evident when we were there because it was such bad weather, and all of the work that they have to do using smoke to kind of indicate where they can land, and just very carefully kind of flying the same ridges over and over. So I wanted to make a work in that space that explored with the pilots, or that sort of was true to what goes on there and the valleys that they're constantly training in and practicing in. And then we developed a work together as one of many that we did, but with 3 Iroquois, and that's what you see in the gallery is point of view cameras on each of the 3 Iroquois. And inside each of the 3 Iroquois are at least 2 pilots and 1 or 2 air crewmen. And then I'm in the middle chopper with them as well as they sort of fly through that routine. And one of the nice points in the work is where 3 choppers do a pedal turn on the top of one of the ridges, and that was quite a feat to organise. And you can hear the pilots talking to each other across the intercoms saying that they're 90 degrees facing forward, and then they get further around and they're at 180 degrees, and then they're at 270, and they're feeding back to each other so that the pedal turn can occur at that same moment. So a lot of what you hear in the intercoms and the artwork is the sheer amount of feedback that the pilots give each other just to maintain the formation. They have to be able to see to fly forward and to keep that safe. And I wanted a lot of those things to kind of be really evident in the experience that the viewer has of the artwork, so that they can kind of experience something of the structure that it takes to achieve safe flight in those kind of conditions. So yeah, the artwork was always experimental in the sense that you just don't know what can happen or what things might go wrong, and it just sort of stayed open all the time as to what the artwork might be. But here we are. Managed to get it done on time for the show, which is fantastic.